On today's show, which early season overachievers have the best chance at sustainable success? Sidney Crosby sets another record, and our 3 stars of the week.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to this Wednesday, October 22nd edition of the Locked On NHL podcast. I'm Ross Levitan. You can find me over at Locked On Senators. And as always, it's a Battle of Ontario edition. With me is Mike DiStefano from Locked On Maple Leafs. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com and win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That is FanDuel to get started. Mikey, we've had a sprint here for the first 6-7 games of the regular season. What storyline, what team has overachieved the most in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a very interesting look at the standings, and it looks different than, I guess, what you would have expected it to look like. I mean, but we're talking about teams that are overachieving. I'm looking at a few teams in the East. I mean, Detroit being 5-1 was not something I anticipated seeing through the first couple of weeks. Like, that's a team that we've kind of clowned on a little bit as, you know, the Yzer plan is failing. Like, this is a team that's just kind of a mishmash. What's their direction? What's the identity? Things seem to be coming along for them this season, and they've played really well. They've won 5 in a row since losing and getting absolutely blasted on opening night by Tom McClellan. The team's responded, and they've played really well. And the Pittsburgh Penguins, you know, winning team, 5-2 to start the year. Seems like Artur Shilovs has given them some good goaltending, along with Tristan Jarry. So those two teams being up in the top 10 in the standings definitely was not what I had on my bingo card for the first couple of weeks. I'd say those two teams have been maybe the most surprising for me in a good way.
Yeah, well, there's 4 teams that are 5-1 overall, but 3 of them, Detroit, New Jersey, and Winnipeg, all lost their first game of the season and then have rattled off 5 straight wins since. It's been impressive for the Detroit Red Wings. I was going to bring them up as well because you look at the teams that they've beaten: Toronto twice, Florida, Tampa, and then Edmonton. So you get 4 huge divisional wins after losing the opener to Montreal, another Atlantic Division team. And then the Oilers had struggled. They were on the road. They get their win last night in overtime against Ottawa, but they were coming into that game hungry, and Detroit just shut them down, only allowing 18 shots against in that game and controlling the majority of it territorially and ultimately getting that 4-2 victory. So I'm with you, man. Detroit looks really impressive. Their decor going into the season was, to me, just not good enough to get it done, but they've been carried by an elite performance. No spoilers, 3 stars of the week coming later, but Dylan Larkin, he's averaging almost 2 points per game here in the early part of the season. 11 points on the season, +9, averaging over 20 minutes a night. He's 60% in the faceoff dot. Like, that's a guy where when your coach comes out after game 1 and says, the guys who have been here, it seems like they're okay with losing. How long have they been saying that? It can get better. It can get better. Pretty encouraging sign for them that the captain's the one that steps up and says, hop on my back. I got you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what you need to see. And you know, it's a team that's defending very well. Like, they're just not giving up a whole lot of scoring chances. And you look at the underlying numbers too. You know, like, this is a team that sits in the top 10 as well in, like, expected goal differential, a 52% expected goal differential, which puts them 10th right there in behind St. Louis. So, you know, the underlying numbers are there as well for this team. So we'll see if it's sustainable. You know, that's the next question. It's been a really good run, but do you believe that this is a team that has officially turned the page and will be competitive this season and compete for a playoff spot? Because I don't think either of us had Detroit in the playoffs. I think we both had them as a team on the outside looking in, but you know, like, has the first 2 weeks of the season kind of changed your opinion here? And, you know, if you had to bet today on FanDuel, would you bet yes or no on Detroit being a playoff team?
No, I'd still bet no. I can't flip flop that quickly after saying that they were going to finish near the bottom of the Atlantic. I really felt like they were a year away from having these young players make an impact. And they're young players, they're in the lineup, but they haven't necessarily carried them. Axel Sandy and Pelika, the rookie, just 1 goal, no assists. 1 goal, no assists for Marco Casper, who had a great season last year.
That
They've
Finney
actually
story,
got
that
they've got
Finney story is really cool though. That Emmett Finney, 7th round pick a year ago, playing on the top line. Like that's a really cool story.
Yeah, I was just going to bring that up. 21 hits too. Like he's doing everything out there to help his team. It's super impressive. 5 points in 6 games for Finney, and I love those stories. It just shows how much talent there is in the hockey world, where a guy can get drafted that late and then so quickly after make an impact. And kind of ironic too, right, Mike? Like Detroit historically has
Yeah.
really let their prospects marinate. They're like, nah, get in there, kid. He had an unbelievable preseason as well. And the 20-year-olds carried that through October so far.
Yeah, and like you look at the heyday, the golden age of the Detroit Red Wings too. Like how many late round picks did they have that were successful? Like Nick Lidstrom was a 7th round pick, if I'm not mistaken. Same with Henrik Zetterberg. Like Dotsuk was a late draft pick as well. Like a lot of these greats that Detroit has been able to kind of farm through the draft have been late round picks. So that's something that they just have not been getting recently. I mean, their 1st round picks have barely been hitting for Pete's sake. And now you're getting, looks like some kids kind of a little gem coming through the draft in this Emmett Finney kid. It's still early and there, he could fall off, but so far the early returns has been great. And it just kind of reminds you like, hey, when a team can find those diamond in the roughs late in drafts, and they can make an impact, it certainly helps. That's what helps kind of build out the depth of an organization, and it sounds like they got one here in Finney.
I'm going to actually focus on a team and overachievers, overreactions. And there might be some pushback on this in terms of a team that I think is overachieved
Hmm?
because they achieved the most during the regular season last year. But the Winnipeg Jets lost Nikolai Ehlers.
Yeah,
They're without their captain, Adam Lowry. They're without one of their star defensemen in Dylan Sandberg.
yeah,
And they lost the first game of the season. Cole Perfetti also out of the lineup. He had that huge game-tying goal against St. Louis in Game 7. And they've just decided, hey, we're going to play a shutdown style. We're not going to try to run and gun with you guys. And, oh, yeah, we've got Connor Hellebuck, who's been playing at the level we expect him to be playing at. I think that it's really impressive to see the Jets moving on without much secondary scoring at all. Like this has been Mark Scheifele, Kyle Connor, and to a lesser extent, you've got Gabe Velarde on that line with 4 assists. But
yeah.
Mark Scheifele, one of the stories of the season right now, tied for the
Oh, yeah.
league lead in goals with Shane Pinto and Pavel Dorofiev. But Scheifele's got 7 goals and 10 points. And then Kyle Connor, coming off the contract extension, has 9 points in 6 games. 2 of Scheifele's goals have been game winners, and Hellebuck has a .927 save percentage. So I think that was a team that a lot of people would have said before the season, we're going to regress. Even Jets fans were like, hey, we'll admit it. Colorado and Dallas, they're ahead of us right now. Like, let's just try to finish top 3 in the division, maybe get home ice. But they're rolling just like they want to have home ice throughout the playoffs like they did last year.
Yeah, and they need home ice because, I mean, Connor Hellebuck on the road has been horrible throughout his entire career. But Mark Scheifele picking up right where he left off. Like the amount of people I spoke to, and I'm a big fantasy guy. I know you are, and I know that Mark Scheifele was a guy there where people were thinking, oh, it's going to be a regression year. Like he had his career year last season, he's going to regress. And he was a guy who fell in drafts. I mean, 7 goals in 6 games to start the year, 10 points, as you noted. Guy just picked up right where he left off, and it's what the Jets need. Like if this team's going to do anything, I think they relied way too heavily on Connor Hellebuck to win them games like 2-1, 3-2 last year. It'd be tough to expect another MVP season out of Hellebuck. They need that offense again this year, and Scheifele's provided them with a lot of it early in the season. Kyle Connor, obviously. But if they are going to have sustained success, which is what they obviously want to have, they do got to get some other guys to pick it up here. Like I don't think they have many goals from the blue line. They got 1 goal from the defense. Actually, 2. I said Logan Stanley scored a couple goals here, but they need some more, offense coming in from the blue line and all around. Like, again, Velarde, he had 30 last year, still not on the score sheet yet this season. Taves has a goal, which is nice to see. Nino Niederreiter's got a couple, but they need some more scoring, deep down the lineup. You can't just assume Scheifele's going to score 90 goals this year like he's on pace for.
Well, one guy I'm a big fan of and doesn't shoot the puck at all, but he's kind of grown into his own over the last 4 or 5 years, maybe even since the trade, which was almost 4 years ago now. Man, time's flying. But Morgan Barron, who came over in the Andrew Kopp trade, he's just like your versatile, can play wing, can play center. Finally, really getting an opportunity down the middle this season, and he's looked great, man. 5 points for him. But with Jonathan Taves, big story, and he got his first goal with the Jets, an awesome moment the other night in his hometown. But he might not be scoring, but Mikey, he's right back. One thing that you can't take away from a veteran player is their ability in the face-off circle. Johnny Taves is snapping back 63.5% among the league leaders. So great to see him. The NHL's better when Jonathan Taves is out there competing, and at 37 years old, I always thought it was a little bit much to expect him to be the second line center on this team. That was kind of where they penciled him in, especially without Adam Lowry to start the season. But he's doing his thing there, and he's got his 2 vets on either side, and Nino Niederreiter and Gustav Nyquist. They've been rolling that as a line recently. So I'm going to be watching for that. And yeah, the Winnipeg Jets, really, really impressive to me. And they're finally allowing some of the kids to get some games. Now, it's still kind of plug and play situations. Brad Lambert got 1 game. You had Nikita Chibrikov has 3 games under his belt now. But I do think the next wave of Winnipeg Jets, they've got some talent there coming. So we'll see if they can continue that on. But they're built big, they're built physical, and they're fast. So those are 3 recipes. You add that with a great goaltender, and we'd expect the Winnipeg Jets. No doubt they're going to be a playoff team, but why they're in the overachiever category here is that they had every excuse in the book to have a slow start. Remember how fast they started last year? What was it, 15 wins in their first 16 games? Yeah. So they're picking up on that note too. So shout out to the Jets.
Yeah, and again, sustainability. We'll see if they can keep it going. It's been a good early story so far, though. That's for sure with Winnipeg. Good mojo considering all the injuries that have been ongoing with that team so far.
Lots of streaks to start the season. Winnipeg, Detroit, New Jersey, as I mentioned, all with 5 wins in a row. And then we've got the Utah Mammoth, winners of 4 straight. Same with the Vegas Golden Knights. And there's some streaks the other way. I'm looking at you, Calgary. You won the first game of the season, lost 6 in a row in regulation beyond that. And the Boston Bruins were 3-0 to start the season, Mikey. They were 3-0, and now they're 3-5.
Yeah, it's not great. It's not going well in Boston, that's for sure. And when Marchand in the house last night, it got even worse because, the fans got to see one of their favorite players in franchise history go out there, dominate them, and send them home with another loss. It just made you think, the heyday of the Bruins is truly over, and now you got some of their stars making good on other teams around the league. It probably was not a fun thing to watch last night.
For more on that, go check out Locked On NHL Game Night, available every single day during the week, wherever you get your podcasts on the Locked On NHL feed. On the other side, what a record for Sidney Crosby. Not the most templated one, but one where you add regular season and playoffs together, and he's passed the greatest Pittsburgh Penguin ever. That's next. You're listening to Locked On NHL, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch. If you need help getting your finances in order, Monarch is for you. Because let's be honest, most of us can't even name all our financial accounts, let alone what they're worth. Between 401ks, savings, and investments, it's easy to lose track. And that can mean leaving money on the table. That's why I started using Monarch. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch has a visual dashboard and smart tools that make it so much easier to understand where the money's going and how it can work harder for me. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarch.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarch.com. Code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year.
Today's episode is also brought to you by Rougiette. Let's be real, making excuses doesn't solve anything. We've all been there before. It's just stress, I'm tired, or it happens to everyone sometimes. But when it comes to performance, sometimes your body just needs a little extra support, and that's where Rougiette comes in. Rougiette.com offers fast-acting, doctor-prescribed treatments for ED designed to help you stop making excuses and start making moves. Rougiette makes it easy to get started. You just connect with a board-certified doctor, 100% online, no awkward waiting rooms, no in-person appointments. If prescribed, your treatment ships discreetly straight to your door. The process is fast, simple, and private, and it's all handled by real doctors. It's all about confidence, connection, and getting back to the moments that matter. Visit Rougiette.com/LockedOnNHL to get 15% off your first order. That's Rougiette.com/LockedOnNHL. And don't forget to use the code LockedOnNHL so they know that we sent you. Rougiette, stop making excuses and start making moves.
Welcome back, Locked On NHL, your team every day. Shout out to all the everydayers making us your first listen across the Locked On Podcast Network. You can go check out all the great local shows that have local experts fired up or starting to panic, depending which way the regular season started. Or if you're Ian McLaren from Locked On Bruins, you've done both. You've been fired up and you've been depressed, because that is what the NHL brings you each and every night. You have no clue what's going to happen. The parity in this league is unbelievable, and I'm so excited to get through another regular season and especially an Olympic year. We're going to start getting some talks about that going later on as we get into November and December. Rosters have to be ready by January, and then we ride in Milan. But one guy who we know will be in Milan is Sidney Crosby. And this guy has already set so many records. Mike, let me start with this, because I almost stopped before throwing to the break there, because I said he passed the greatest Pittsburgh Penguin of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Is Mario Lemieux the greatest Penguin of all time, or is it Sidney Crosby?
Oh, man. Like it's a 1A, 1B. Like it's so hard. It's almost like you look at Edmonton, like how rich of a organization franchise it is with Gretzky and McDavid. It's like, man, like eventually McDavid is going to get himself into that conversation, if not already. But it's so difficult, man. The game was different. The one thing I will say is, yes, Sidney Crosby has just passed for all-time points scored in a Penguins uniform. That's combining playoffs and regular season. But he did need, like 400 more games to do it?
Oh, yeah.
So the tie break might go to Lemieux. However, if you break it down by, what's that stat? Like the by generation stat.
I thought you were going to say Stanley Cup. It's 3-2 Sid.
No. What's that stat? The goal
era adjusted.
That's it. Yeah, you look at the era adjusted. I'm sure that number would be a little closer because the 80s and 90s scores were outrageous, and Lemieux could go out and get 4 or 5 points a night. But either way, I don't even think it's easy to have that conversation. It's a 1A, 1B, and you could put either or there. Which is just fantastic. Like both might be on the NHL's Mount Rushmore, let alone, both being the head of the snake in Pittsburgh alone.
Yeah, I just look at what Sid's done. Like you can go either way with that. You're like, oh, it took him 400 more games. Or you can say, wow, his longevity. And I think last year he set the record for most points per game seasons played in the NHL.
Yeah,
his longevity, and then when you add in what he went through with the concussions and the time he missed, it just becomes even more impressive to me that he was able to bounce back. Like he missed almost 2 years, dude. I know.
Lemieux had the same, obviously
Lemieux had cancer,
cancer, but he also missed time and came back and put up points too, you know?
Totally.
So it's like that, those are, which is, you know, just kind of the irony there that both of them missed time in the middle of their careers with injury, like what could have been, I guess, is always going to be a question mark there. But there's some people that put Mario like ahead of Gretzky. Like there are those defenders out there that believe that he was like the most dominant player in the game that the game has ever seen with his combination of size and skill. And you know, that's again, like I think, you know, you and I, we saw the end of Lemieux's career, right? Didn't quite get to see him in his heyday. Got to see him a little bit in the early 2000s, but it's so hard to compare two greats of like that and try and decide like who's better. Like they're both just unbelievable players. Both, you know, considered one of the best to ever play it, though.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive for the Pittsburgh Penguins to have these two eras that are now kind of right beside each other in terms of all-time points, regular season and playoffs.
Yeah.
Sidney Crosby now leads the way with 1,896. Lemieux, obviously, with 1,895, 1 point back. Then third is Evgeny Malkin, followed by Jaromir Jagr, followed by Chris Letang. And Chris Letang got his 600th career NHL assist in last night's game for the Pittsburgh Penguins. And
Gino's off to a good start too. He's got 10 points in the first 7 games, leading the way for these Penguins. So Gino having a little bit of a renaissance season, maybe.
Yeah, and they beat the wheels off of Vancouver last night. 5-1 was the final score, and Hunter Hodes and Patrick Damp will be all over that over at Locked On Penguins. But I'm still not changing my stance on Pittsburgh either.
No.
I know these guys are hard to bet against, Crosby specifically, but they've also got one of the oldest teams in the National Hockey League, and we'll see once the grind starts getting to them through, let's say, game 35 to 40, right before the Olympics. I think we could see them maybe take a bit of a step back, but hey, if you're a Penguins fan, enjoy it right now. They've been playing great hockey to start the season. They're getting much better goaltending than they got last year, which was a huge Achilles heel for them.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see if the Penguins can keep it up, but certainly one of the stories to watch. And whenever Sidney Crosby is playing, if you're a hockey fan, you're seated, because we're in an era right now where there's so many young up-and-coming stars in the league, but for him to keep doing his thing the way he is,
still right there,
truly incredible. It really is. And how's Carlson doing this year? Is he contributing? 3 assists for EK, same as Letang. So there you go.
Yeah, not a whole lot. Not a whole lot.
No, it's the big dogs. Obviously, Justin Brazeau, the biggest dog up there. 5 goals in 7 games, though, leads the team. Pretty impressive for the forward who's been kind of passed around, was traded midseason from Boston and Minnesota last year, but looks like he's found a home down in Pittsburgh. So credit to them, man. Obviously, they got some future Hall of Famers on that team, and we'll see if they can keep it rolling through this next portion of the season. But how about 3 stars of the week on a Wednesday? I love doing it. Splits it up nice and different. But we always know that Friday, Sunday, Monday, and Wednesday aren't really the NHL's days. So we like doing this after a Tuesday where a lot of teams play, a lot of teams get in the mix, and we look back at the week that was and which players stood out the most. That is next. You're listening to Locked On NHL, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, hockey's back, and the MLB World Series is set. FanDuel's got an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you will get $300 in bonus bets. It is that simple. We're looking ahead. Couple Canadian boys here at the World Series. The Toronto Blue Jays going into Game 1, plus 130 underdogs at home in that matchup. The World Series as a whole, the Blue Jays are plus 184. It's minus 220 if you want to get in on the Dodgers. But why would you? Get in on the action at FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app now to get started. That's a $5 bet. If it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Welcome back to Locked On NHL, your team every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where we have local experts on the biggest stories 5 days a week. Make sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. We are Locked On NHL. Mikey, 3 stars of the week. We can go alternating order. We can do it however you'd like.
I mean, we can alternate. We can alternate. Start at 3, make our way down to the first star of the week. Coming in for me, I had a bit of a tough time here coming up with the 3 stars or my third star, because there's just so many guys, like some honorable mentions, we'll call them. But for me, my third star, I'm giving it to Nick Schmaltz. I think Nick Schmaltz, who leads the league with 8 points, 4 goals over the course of the last calendar week here. And, that Utah team, man, they're winning games. I think they're 4-0 this week. They won 4 in a row. So, Nick Schmaltz has been a big part of that. He had a hat trick earlier in the week as well. And he's a guy who's been there for a long time and kind of had a really nice season a year ago. And he's got to be a big part of this team if they break through into the playoffs. And, he's played really, really well to start the year. 8 points through 4 games this week. I think Nick Schmaltz has had himself quite a week and deserves some respect.
Yeah, Nick Schmaltz is one of the more underrated players, I'll say, in the league. Maybe it's because he was buried in Arizona there for quite some time, but yeah, I've always enjoyed watching him play. He's got 4 straight 20-goal seasons, and he just dummies the Sens. I think that also makes me respect him a little bit more. Not that I love it, but he's got 17 points in 13 career games in Ottawa, including a 7-point game a couple of years ago. So he's torched them up, and he's torching the league up, and very valid to have him as the third star. For the second star, and I won't discuss this too much because we talked about it a little bit already, but I'm going with Connor Hellebuyck. 3-0 on the week, only 4 goals against in those 3 games, a .951 save percentage. He's been unreal. And it's so interesting to watch Connor Hellebuyck play because he's so different than most goalies in the NHL. He plays a little bit deeper, but it still looks so effortless most of the time. Like, I'll go to a game here in Winnipeg, and it's like the shots are 34-26 for the other team, but you're like, wow, Winnipeg's controlled the play a lot. Because every shot is just boom. It's easy. It's in the corner. Boom. Outlet pass. It's unreal watching Connor Hellebuyck play hockey, and he's off to an incredible start. So I'll go Connor Hellebuyck as the second star of the week.
Which is kind of interesting because I'm pretty sure I was looking at earlier today, expected goal differential. The Winnipeg Jets are dead last because they're generating 0 offense. It's basically the problem. But yeah, expected goal differential, 34%.
Wow.
Expected goal for percentage, yeah.
Yeah, he's got the 4th best goal saved above expected in the National Hockey League on the entirety of the season, behind Jet Greaves, Spencer Knight, and Igor Shesterkin.
Yeah. So definitely the guy who's the face of that 5-1 start, just like he was a year ago. That team picked it up right where they left off. Coming in at number 2 for me, I had Jack Hughes as my second star of the week, fresh off a hat trick against my Toronto Maple Leafs. We talked about that on today's Locked On Leafs podcast, and how the Devils just kind of made the Leafs look silly. And he's a big part of it. And when Jack Hughes is healthy, he's one of the best players in the world, one of the best players in the league. And we talked about it over the summer. Like, who's one of those young guys who hasn't quite cracked the top 10, but could? Like, Hughes is one of those guys. Like, if he could stay healthy, the skill is there, right? The skill is there for him to be an elite player in this league. And, 6 goals on the week. The Devils have been playing some really good hockey. He's a big part of that. So Jack Hughes got my second star of the week.
Okay, nice. So let's say that Hellebuyck was my third star then, because I thought we were alternating just 1, 2, 3, but I like this better. We each got a 1, 2, 3.
Bad.
No, all good. So you got Schmaltz at 3, and you've got Jack Hughes at 2. I'll go Connor Hellebuyck at 3, and this might be out of the blue, but Mark Stone. And he got hurt. He's on IR. The guy had 7 points in 2 games.
I know.
Ridiculous.
You might be right. You might be right. We'll see if the injury kind of derails the season.
He's a stud.
Mark Stone might be on Team Canada. You
No,
called
he's a
that.
lock.
You called that, and you might be right.
Yeah. Yeah. He needs to get healthy because that's been an issue for him over the last number of years. He was one of the OG LTIR guys who came back and was a stud. He's got 13 points in 6 games, but it looks like he's going to be out not just days, but weeks. And we'll see when he's able to come back. But yeah, he's just turned himself into a playmaker as he's got 11 assists in those 6 games. And he had a hell of a week. So he'll be my second star.
Yeah, that's fair, man. Mark Stone, 7 points in 2 games.
2
Man.
games.
Not
2
bad.
games.
Yeah,
not
that
bad.
whole team is like
Wagon.
just a wagon, dude. Like they just score, and score. Like whether it's Stone, whether it's Eichel, Marner finally got his first couple of goals this week. Pavel Dorofeyev leading the way in the NHL. Like
and they're doing it with like Noah Hannafin hasn't played a game yet this year. Obviously, Pietrangelo is out for the year already. Like that's 2 big dogs from their decor last year who just aren't available for them.
Yeah, it's impressive stuff.
Yeah,
very impressive stuff.
I think we're gonna have the first number 1 star.
Yeah, Dylan Larkin.
Dylan Larkin.
Yeah, the guy's been unbelievable. And as we mentioned, like they haven't lost the game to 3-0 this week. The Detroit Red Wings are, and guys got 8 points, which is tied for the league lead. But only in 3 games, but a +6. Like the guy is a two-way stud. And that's what, has always been kind of his calling card, like Dylan Larkin, one of the fastest players in the league, and he can get up and down the ice, with the best of them. And for me, it's just the way that he's been able to kind of dominate things out there in Detroit. Like I watched, 2 games last week against the Maple Leafs. Like that guy was an absolute beast in those games. So Dylan Larkin, hell of a player, man. And if that team's going to go anywhere, he does have to be the leader. He's the captain, obviously, but guys had a heck of a week, and it's a big reason for why Detroit's gotten off to the quick, fast start that they have.
Yeah, he is. And shout out again to the Red Wings fans who rightfully are letting me know online that I said they were going to suck.
Yeah.
Maybe they still will because they do fall off a cliff there often a little bit later on in the season.
But how did our Rangers do through the first 10 games last year?
Yeah, very good.
Yeah, how'd they finish?
Not so great.
Good. Not so good.
Not great. Not great. Injury news. Brady Tkachuk spoke to the media today. Last week, we announced that he was out 6 to 8 weeks with thumb surgery. Says he doesn't have a timeline for when he's going to be able to skate and all that. Yeah, he's been off the ice for 9 games. The Senators are 1-2-1 since he left. More from that on Locked On Senators. For today, we say goodbye for Mike DiStefano from Locked On Maple Leafs. I'm Ross Levitan, and this has been a Wednesday edition of the Locked On NHL podcast, your team every day.